Okay, so we had a viewer question come in. John from Michigan asked how he could connect to his spirit guides. He's been trying to and having issues with it. Every time he feels like he gets close to a message coming through, somehow the link is broken and he's not able to make that connection. So he wanted to know what we can suggest to help him get there.
Sometimes we have to let go of the control. I know sometimes I like to micromanage the universe, like I want things now, or I want to have these experiences, but I realize that it's really up to them to come forth. So, and I have to say, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of glad that they've waited to present themselves to me, because at certain points I might not have been ready, I might have been overwhelmed, I might have not been spiritually in the good place. So he may be thinking he's doing something wrong, when in actuality it might be his guides preparing him for something more, but instantly we're thinking we're doing something wrong.
I think he needs to pay more attention to his intuition, because if he's having some type of blockage, what he needs to do is put out the questions that he wants. He could write them down, and if he learns to tune into his basic intuition, which we all have and we all use every day, it might be easier through that method as opposed to some people that can't meditate. But the guide will contact him through his intuition during the day about certain actions or decisions he wants to take or give insight onto. And that might be the building block of the guide being able to work with him more closely. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you'll know your guide by the energy and perhaps even a name or, other descriptions. But for now, you just want to be able to make that basic connection. And when you're going to have to use things that we came into this life with, and the basic one is intuition. So.
Well, and the messages too can come in different ways. So, you might be wanting to get the information from, like, let's say channeling or automatic writing. But I like your point about writing the questions down and, like, who are you? Or, dear spirit guide, because you might get a message or something through just having a communication with somebody, or being out and hearing somebody say something in a shopping center. It could be like expanding up the other ways.
And it would resonate with you in a particular situation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I wonder if that came from my guide. And they'll start to learn the language, and you'll learn the language.
Sometimes I think it's a lot of pressure to sit down and try to channel the messages for yourself. For me, I have a harder time with that. I have a harder time sitting down.
It takes time.
Exactly. So if he is getting like the pressure of sitting down and channeling, and I know the question talked about, blips, like in a dream, messages have come up, or in other ways messages have come up. So it might be preparing like a compilation of ways that it's going to come in, and it won't be just I remember when I started doing this work, I really wanted the Archangel Michael to literally sky open up, him to come down and have this big being of light sitting in front of me talking and have a conversation back and forth.
Expectations.
And I have to say, I would pray and I'm like, come on, Michael, please, I know you're there. And he was coming forth in so many other ways that I didn't even realize. And I have to say now, I'm kind of glad he didn't, because that probably would have scared me and I never would have done this ever again. So this is that part of trusting the way that our guides are coming to us in blips.
And your main guide and the guides that are working with you now have been working with you for a while. So they are in contact with you. You're just not picking it up. So
no fault of your own.
No, right. But the connection's already there. You just want to become obviously more aware of it. And I think the more that you don't put pressure on yourself and kind of let it go with the flow, use your intuition, use your instincts. Throughout the day, you might start to pick up these little signs, and that's a way to build on it.
I like the idea of writing it down.
Yeah.
Like writing your question down and then leaving it up to the universe, and then just paying attention to how it comes in. It could be a billboard sign. It could be, like I said, somebody talking in a shopping center. It could be a song on a radio, and opening up other ways that spirit guides can connect.
And I think too, one tool that you can use is let your imagination become a part of it, where you sit down with a pad and paper and you say, my spirit guide is a, and you write down male or female, and whatever comes to you, you just write it down. You say, my spirit guide looks like this, and you just, whatever comes into your head, just write it down, because, 50% of it's probably going to be right. But what it does is it gives you an opening to have an image that you're connecting, because what they look like and what the name is doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they'll switch that on you.
Yeah.
And what I found out with one of the main guides that I work with, I found out the name was Thomas, and it was through a medium that told me, and it was a name that when I was trying to get a spirit guide through a meditation in a group, I vaguely remember the name coming in and out real quick, but it disappeared so fast I didn't put any stock in it. So I kind of said, oh, whatever. And then when I got that message, like 6 months later, it's like, oh, Thomas is working with you. And it said, oh, like, I remember that name, like, it resonates, but I didn't really think much of it. And then my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, gave me a last name. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's right. And then like a year and a half later, when I was taking a trance class with Ernie, I'm sitting there and I was getting ready to channel, and that last name popped into my head, and I was like, oh, crap, she's right. But so I asked, I was like, why didn't you give me this? Why didn't, and it was really interesting because the message said, if we gave you a name, you would instantly judge the connection and you would judge the information coming through. And they said, the name that you have is just one personality that the soul has lived. You're not connecting with the person, that historical person. You're connecting with the soul that exists multiple lifetimes. It exists beyond just that person. They said, instantly you would limit us to this small being, and anything that came through that didn't look like you expected, didn't sound like you expected, you would discredit.
Well, that happened to me when I first started connecting with my spirit guide, my guardian angel, a guide, and I used automatic writing. And I would sit down and I would have a blank piece of paper and I would have a pencil and I would hold my hand loosely. And I asked the Archangel Michael to protect me and to bring forth my spirit guide, my guardian angel, and or a being of light that was to watch over me. And I sat there and I kept getting the name Azra over and over and over. And I knew it wasn't me writing because the letters came in different. I'm left-handed, so it was almost coming in like I was writing as if I was right-handed. It was interesting. So that's where I validated. I'm like, okay, this isn't me writing. And so I remember saying, I'm going to call you Oz. And so every once in a while I would see a license plate with OZ, or The Wizard of Oz would come on, or Dorothy's Red Slippers, and I was like, that is my guide talking to me. That's when I know I need to listen to the message. And then probably about a year and a half or 2 years later, I was guided to get this book. It was like archangels and biblical stories. And I just got it and I started to read through it. And there was a story of this boy who was sent into the village to get a guide to take him to go to another village to get sand so that their village can make money, and I believe it was making glass. So he went to the village and he found this guide, and this guide, long story short, the guide took him to this other village and he met his wife, and he brought his wife back to the village. And come to the end of the story, the guide that he took, in the story the name was Azra. And it kind of perked up my ears. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. That's the archangel, that's the guardian angel or the angel, the guide that my name is, right? My guide is. And so, long story short, at the end of the story, I found out that it was actually the Archangel Raphael. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, I didn't think an archangel could be like a guide for you. It wasn't something in my scope. And so I kind of laughed. And now that I do this work and I work with the Archangel Raphael a lot, I see that he came forth in that way. So when I see Oz, I know it's him talking to me as my guide and not, let's say, channeling it for people or to share the information. So you're right, it comes in aspects,
Yep.
right? And it's
Yeah.
not always, and I probably wouldn't have accepted the Archangel Raphael at that time because I was very new and I didn't really understand a lot. So Oz was a name that I could accept wholeheartedly. And just recently I saw a license plate go by. I was struggling with some things, and on my way home from a coaching session, it said OZ-444. And fours are the angels. And then it was Oz, and I'm like, I love you. Thank you for being there for me, right? And I was just like, ah, you know, but it's kind of our secret sign. So you just never know how they're going to come in. So sometimes we can discount things and not realize it.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is just don't stress yourself and be, when you do ask these questions, or like Nathan said, if you just kind of want to sit down and write some stuff out, just be like at peace. Listen to some music, go for a walk, do whatever it is that relaxes you, and then set your attention and then write down certain questions or something and see what comes to you. If you're nice and relaxed, it's almost like daydreaming. And like Nathan says, a male or female energy, you know, do I hear a name, or is there something that reminds me of it? Anything that comes into your mind, write it down and you'll get little clues. I mean, obviously there are other ways through meditation and, you know, and practice and certain different ways of development. But for someone that's got a blockage, this is probably the best way.
Yeah, and just remember, it might not even be you. It might be something that your
It's-
guide is setting up over time.
Yeah, maybe you're not meant to know right now, but just trust. They could be teaching you trust and patience too.
Patience.
Yep. and just look at the information that comes your way. You know, the
The
guides,
signs.
it's not so direct sometimes as a conversation with a person. Sometimes it's the books that come to you. You know, it's what you happen upon going through on the computer or on the TV, that something comes to you. And so they're speaking to you. It's just you got to accept the language. And once you accept the language, that relationship will continue to grow. But yeah, so I think that's it. And let us know, you know, be in touch with us and let us know how you make out. And of course, anything we can do to assist, we'll be there for you.
Thanks for your questions. You know, please, if you have any other ones, send them into our Facebook page, our email address. You can send them anonymously. So, you know, enjoy this part.
And we'll be talking more about guides in future episodes because it can get very detailed, and it's not, we wanted to focus in on your question, but we'll be following up on this particular subject in another show. Thanks.
And take what we say and check it with your own self. And remember, always consider the source.